I'm right at 10 years, Tony Bitzler. Same capacity as him, or same job, but then I have a team that also covers a big chunk of the U.S. So,
Reese Burnett, I'm in Coeur d'Alene and Sandpoint, been doing it for almost 3 years.
Aaron Pratt, I'm one of the open house managers here at the Olson Group. I came out of the Nampa office, and I've been an open house closer now for 6 years.
I work here at the home office. I do open houses as a manager with Aaron and Jared, and I've been doing this about 5 years.
The only one that doesn't have, but so Aaron and Curtis will both be helping as well. We're all kind of collaboratively doing this training. I'm Jared Mace. I've been with Health Services for, this is 10 years doing open houses. This is my 8th year of doing open houses. So the stuff that we're going to be teaching is applicable anywhere you go. Small towns, big cities, it's people that we're selling, right? And that's the thing that we want to get through is it's the little things, those little details that we're working on that will make you great compared to good at what you do. So we worked hard and prepared this, but this is going to be an evolution. Hopefully you guys can come to future ones as well, because this is just going to continue to expand. And this will match somewhat the PowerPoint, but take notes. We're stealing ideas from you guys as well. How you guys handle objections is going to be different than how we handle objections, and this is the golden part. All right, objections, you can have a great presentation. 90% of what you do is amazing, but that 10% at the end is where it falls apart. All right, and if you aren't able to handle objections appropriately, then everything falls from there and they don't end up purchasing. And so if we can have 10 different ways of handling each objection and master that, then it's just going to make you that much stronger of a closer, right? And so we want to tap into how you all handle it, not just ways that we're throwing out that work well for us, but that's the best part of the collective group. You guys are all good at what you do. That's the reason you're here. This isn't a beginner's course. This is more of an advanced sales training course. And so we're going to collectively gather how you guys handle objections. But more importantly, what I want you to pay attention to is the details of the body language, the tone of voice, the eye contact. When we're doing these things, try to pick up on those. Because you can say the same thing in a completely different manner and you're going to get a completely different response. And so one request is to come into this with an open mind. This is something that we are going to be saying things that might not be the way you say things. That's okay, right? Receive it, try it out, test it, and then adjust it, right? And make it you. Just hearing, we've done a ton of training with Grant Cardone, and personally, I haven't been a fan of some of the ways that he handles objections because it's very, very blunt and just straight to the point. And I said, well, how can I adjust this and tailor this to our demographics and our patients? And if you hear something and you're like, ooh, I like that, but you know what? This just doesn't fit my personality. Tweak it, adjust it. Don't just throw it aside. Say, how can I challenge yourself? How can I make this a great way of handling this objection? And together through that, then you're just going to, again, build an arsenal of ways of handling those different objections. So we're going to be covering from start to finish, open houses and closing objections. And that's kind of what we start with on that first page. From the business owners in here, you're going to get some of those key takeaways as well, that some of our internal open house people don't necessarily need to know as much, but good information. But from beginning to end, we're going to cover every aspect of open houses. We get a lot of questions from other franchise owners. Well, you know, how many direct mail pieces do you send out? What pieces? We're not going to cover the exact pieces because that changes on an ongoing basis. But if you do want to get some different pieces that we have used, then come see us a little bit later and we can give you some examples. And what we're using right now, what we've used in the past. But diving into this, the reason why it is so important to do open houses and to get your staff, if you guys have companies that you guys aren't doing open houses, it is so important to get your team on board. And the reason being is not just that the consultants and PCCs are getting a big payday. It's your capability of succeeding long term. And what I mean by that is a lot of times they would call them patient finders, right? And back in the day, that's kind of what audio care would call them, is you're finding more patients, you're doing more advertising and adding more patients to your database. So then down the road, we can upgrade them. But we, as from our standpoint, we create it as an option. You don't have to do open houses if you don't want to. But for our group, we have competitions and awards. You have the Charles Holland Award from corporate. There are many different competitions that they have where they need those open houses because we're getting $300,000 to $400,000 additional in sales in that one office that you wouldn't have. And it's hard to compete against an entire company and win awards and trips and recognition if you don't have that $300,000 to $400,000 boost. But we do give people the option. They just often want to win those awards. We go to Mexico, we go to Hawaii, we go to different locations each year from our organization, and we tie in our competitions to what corporate has for the Charles Holland and the Platinum Club, so we can be in alignment with where they're going. But from a business owner standpoint, getting your staff on board, it is critical, but you have to have the right open house people, and you have to have them dedicated to doing this the right way. I remember my first open house watching them, it was like so hardcore closing that I didn't really enjoy the experience. The patients that I fell in love with, they were leaving. They were saying, never bring that person back. They literally handed out a piece of paper that said, hey, if you're not going to purchase hearing aids, you might as well learn some sign language. This 85-year-old, like, and I'm brand new to the industry, 85-year-old says, if I was 30 years younger, we'd be fighting. He goes, good thing you're not 35 years younger because I'd be whooping your ass. And I was like, what is happening? Okay, take notes, okay. I'll whoop your ass. No. Aaron, you sure? No. So I didn't enjoy that experience from my patients. I had another open house with this other individual. We had 5 days packed and we did $34,000 in sales, and it was like, I could have done better than this. And then we had another open house, and it was literally the same message every 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, I was taking notes just because I'm a sponge, and these are supposed to be the top closers, and I'm taking notes. After the third appointment, I didn't need to take any more notes because he was saying the same exact thing. It was a robot, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awful. That was kind of the history of us creating our own internal open house program. I had reached out to Greg and said, hey, I can get numbers just as good or better and have it be a positive experience. And that was the whole goal of why we did this, is we want it to be a positive experience for our patients where we treat them as if we're the consultant, right? As if it's my patient. How do I treat them like it's somebody that I love and care about? And it's not the same every single time, and yet we still get good results. And so luckily they took a leap of faith and said, yes, let's do it. And then we've grown ever since. We've gotten some amazing people. You guys, when you get to pick the brains of Aaron and Curtis, it has just been something that has just transformed over the years, and we just keep getting better and better, which is exciting. And a big part of that is just because we're working together. But the whole focus of our open house program is to train our staff. So any business owner in here knows that the more training, the more education you get, the better the team, right? And that's one of our main focuses. When we go into that office, we're not there just to put sales up. We're spending time with the PCC, we're spending time with the consultant, asking them, what can we improve? How can we be better? Looking at the entire scope of what we're doing, looking at how we can improve their store, their success, how they handle objections and things of that nature. So it's not just when they leave, they have excitement. They're ready to go. They have 3 different ways of handling objections. So when they leave, you typically will see continued success. And we have 2 trainings a year with our whole company. And usually you'll see sales right after. They're excited everyone got together, and you'll see it slowly wane. And then we get another boost at our next conference. The open houses are our goal is to get them hyped up and excited again and selling more. If you don't do it the proper way, it's going to have those negative effects where they leave, and if you have a ton of cancels and returns, they're frustrated, and that's one of the reasons why some people don't want to do it is, I can put up the same sales numbers without all the hassle and headache. I'm making just a little bit more, but the stress, the anxiety, all this stuff that they say, no, I don't want to be a part of it. So that's why it's so important to have a good closer who can put a ton of sales so it doubles the amount of money that they would make, and they aren't having a whole bunch of headaches. And then on top of that, they have a friend now that can help them improve their game, and they took time to help them improve their game. So when they leave, it's just a continued success. And that's why it's so important to have the right open house people. But from your guys' standpoint, and you guys chime in, what are some other positives that you guys have seen in open houses?
The rise of energy, everybody gets excited, and we have them in our locations, and they are always positive. I mean, we always have bigger numbers, I think, than we would have had, not having an organized day. And we see people pretty quick, about every 15 to 20 minutes.
Oh, really?
Because the FOA can fall over, if it's just a cleaning and a check and all that stuff. Because sometimes they don't understand what you're doing on the phone to begin with. They come in they think a battery or something, And so when those come in, you don't want to complicate your schedule.
Yeah.
And so they kind of take over, and we stay focused on who's, active and ready to do something.
Yeah.
It seems to work out for us, but we're hoping to learn a lot of new things from you guys, and so we're excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it is. We have found that it's 2.5 times. So we've given people the ability to close during their own open house and let them take their own appointments. No, essentially a open house person, no closer, if you will. And it's typically 2.5 times greater in sales. And a big part of that is because you have more time with the patient. Right? Even if you're sitting at every hour on the hour and you're trying to do it, it can be done, but it is very difficult to, when they have questions, well, what if a spouse wants to get tested? What if there's overbooking and now I'm every 45 minutes? It's very challenging to do rapport building, intake, and asking questions, explaining the value of what we do, demoing, handling objections, signing contracts. That can be a lot. So having 2 different offices and 2 different consultants gives you an hour and a half of patient time, essentially, before your next one. And so having more time just gives you more success.
One of the beautiful things is, for example, I've done an event with everyone in this room that's from our franchise, and I've learned something from each one of you. And then I've taken that to one of your other events and changed what I did to mimic what you did. But then you learned what I learned from Nate, and vice versa. And it's kind of like pollinating. We're like bees as open house closers. We're helping to pollinate the company. And we're spreading the best practices, and we're helping people to understand. So I'm a better closer because of you guys. And then you guys become a better provider, because we had that event. And as you guys become closers, and that's why you're here as future closers, it's going to be that much more important for you guys to elevate your game and then spread the wealth, pollinate. That's what it's all about.
I like that analogy. That's good. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar to that. Everybody in this room from our organization, they're sitting here for a reason, because they're the ones taking notes. They're using things that they hear from us, and vice versa, as Aaron said. And as we spread all that knowledge around all of our company, it makes a huge difference. Just exponentially makes growth.
So back to the reasons why it is so important is obviously the training, getting a big paycheck, the energy and excitement that it brings to the group. It gets them connected with corporate office and the trainings that we have. And for those that have been a consultant, you guys know you can feel like you're on an island out there. And so for us, we do it 4 times a year, sometimes 5 times a year. And those are those times that we can reconnect with them, get them to feel like they're not all alone in this, and they have that friendship. And if it's done in the right manner, then you have that friendship, and they'll reach out to you and you'll reach out to them and say, hey, great job last month. Where again, it's just another person that wants to support them, help them succeed, and then they typically will stay in the industry longer because we're helping them and they have another relationship in this. So it also helps with retention. And again, future success, giving them additional people down the road. If I just do my own open house and let's say I close, at best half of the people that they would of a typical open house, 3 years down the road, I'm not going to have as many people to upgrade. And so again, it allows you to have that future success down the road. Expectations for us. For all of our open house people, our expectations is that we do lead by example, that we have a great attitude. You're going to handle adversity. All right, you're going to get told no more than you would if you're a consultant, because you're having 8 to 10 to 12 to 14 opportunities to sell hearing aids a day. And if you get half of those, let's say you had 10 of them and you had 5 sales, let's say your average at 6,000, right? So that's 30,000. That's a pretty successful day. You still 5 times got told no that day. You have to be able to handle that. And you're going to have other obstacles where it's a consultant that isn't a big fan of this, or a PCC that's new and doesn't know how to confirm or to get third parties in. And you have to be able to handle those and still have a good attitude. One of the biggest things that we can influence is the energy in the room. And if we don't have a good attitude, if we're frustrated, if we're complaining, this PCC, man, you gotta get a new PCC. This is frustrating, this is killing me. And we're complaining, it only is going to create an environment that is okay with complaining and negativity. And that's one thing that we have control over. And so we have to make sure if we're going to complain, we complain up, right? So the person above us, we're not complaining down to the PCC, we are coaching down, right? So, hey, this is a great learning opportunity here. You have a new PCC, right? So make sure that you take the time and listen to those phone calls. This is going to be really important for you to listen to those confirmation calls and make sure that they're reminding them on the confirmation call to bring the third party. It would go something like this. And we're leading by example, right? Because they're going to have adversity as well. And we're showing them how we handle adversity. And that's where we have to get better at handling adversity, because they're going to have the same obstacles, objections, and adversity when we leave. And we're showing them how to do that. And just like my dad did, he always said, listen to what I say, not what I do, but I always paid attention to what he did. They're watching what we do. They're watching how we respond, how we say things, our tone of voice, our body language. Because again, it's not just what we say, it's how we say it, and not just to the patients, but to the consultants and PCCs as well. And the better we get at communicating and carrying ourselves and being able to handle that adversity is going to just make that whole entire company better. So having a good attitude, handling adversity, having a growth mindset, being willing to learn, being coachable. Again, for us, every time we go into an open house, we're looking to learn and grow and take from your knowledge as well. We don't want to be the know-it-alls, right? I don't want to go into an open house and act like I know it. I'll be like, yeah. Because it just makes it seem like I'm not listening to you, I don't respect you, right? I want to be a sponge no matter where I go, and I can learn from anyone. All right, this is our kind of our playground, that everything can be used as a learning tool to help us to be better. So being approachable and open to learning, but I think being approachable is critical, because again, we are their tie. Even if we're not in management, they look at us as if we are, right? They're going to look at us as if we are tied into the leadership, into the management, even if we don't have a role of manager, right? You're in open houses, you're closer to management, you talk with the owners, the assumptions that they make is that we are the managers. And so we have to get good at understanding that even if we're not managers, we're looked at as managers. And so we have to hold ourselves to that higher standard And again, with our attitude, our energy, and how we complain, how we're approachable, because they're going to bring complaints to you. And we don't want to just make this a complaint circle. Let's find a way to either get an answer, or we bring that up to the person above us and say, hey, this is something I heard. And then I tell them, I'll share that information and we can work on that. All right, so just letting them know, hey, I can come to you. Showing up early, being willing to stay late. Open houses is a grind. It is not something that is just a 9-to-5 banking job, right? There's many days where we get appointments at 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. as well. I mean, for us, we are their guest, but at the same time, we are there to put money into their pockets, to bring revenue into the store, to bring money into our pockets. We're usually traveling without our kids and our family, so we're like, hey, load us up. We're here to make some money for you. And we will work as late as they need. That being said, we need to make sure that we are on the same page with them, right? They might have other things that they got going on.
Yeah, I hope y'all can help us with that, because some of the people that we've had in the past for open houses, there's like this conflict between the ego of the specialist and not understanding what the whole thing is going to be. And if we could better explain to them what the opportunity is going to be for all concerned, then they'd have more enthusiasm going forward and not feel like, we've had about barking through the glass door, at each other. That's a bad thing for everybody.
So are you saying the consultant is the one that has the ego and thinks, I don't want to open house?
It may be both. Sometimes, it just depends over the years. And we look back, like you follow.
Are your open house people?
Wasn't going to be told, so that he was acting like he was no names or anything like that. But it just doesn't work out that way. But if we can hey, we got this event coming up, and we start staging, it's a few days to come into it, and everybody gets excited about it. If our FOAs had a better dialogue to ensure that we get quality appointments, the 15 and 20 minutes is because sometimes we just get 20 and 30 people in one day, but in the end of it, we wind up with a bunch of sales, but I think we lose some too, obviously. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like, if we could explain to our consultant who's going to be a part of it, that we have this guest coming in, and kind of go through the whole opportunity. Like Bill was talking about, you Heather, he feels more comfortable with you because you're more comfortable in the whole thing, not a stranger coming from out of town. So we need to bridge it where we have our internal people feeling better and positive, and our guests coming in to feel like they're, the superstars. That's what it's supposed to be, in my mind, about anyway. That's what I believe the consumer believes, is that this guy's an authority, and that credibility gives to the end results of more sales, of course.
So are your open house people internal or
and both?
And both.
We have some out of audio care and
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned and Miracle in the past.
I would say it's important to just pick the right person and to let them know this is what's going on in the environment, but also let the open house or the consultant and the staff get them excited. And I think for us, when we've had people that didn't want to do them, we kind of shared with them, hey, this is kind of our goal, and this is some of the positives of doing open houses, because a lot of times they see black and white, like, oh, I'm a good closer myself, I can just close them. Why don't you just dump all that marketing into this? And I have found, even myself, I remember when I was just a traditional consultant, I would see a patient and I was working on this person 3-4 different appointments and they still didn't buy. And then here comes open house person, literally said the exact same things I said, and then they end up purchasing.
Right.
And at first I was upset, but then I realized sometimes people just need to hear it a second time. And so as the owner, telling them that stuff is important, saying, hey, this is something that you have patients that just need to hear from a second person. But also, patients get good at saying no to you because you tend to handle objections in the same way because it's worked. Right? So if we handle those same objections in the same way, and they've learned to say no to that, and they've learned to say no to you, getting it to a different person, oh, I don't know how to say no to this person, and that makes sense. Even if it's saying the same thing, he doesn't know how to say no to me.
And as a time gone by with a certain person, you can get into this, let's fix it, let's clean it, let's do whatever, as opposed to like, hey, here's our new product. Just, just give me 1 moment, I'll be right back, you're gonna look like a kid again or whatever. And,
Yeah.
and you put it on their ears, and then they can make a lot more informed decisions
Absolutely.
from that moment, we believe, or I noticed that.
Yeah, well, and the demo is huge. It is critical to get the staff on board, though, right? And it's critical to have the open house people that you choose. If you see that they're doing that and you're going to continue doing open house with them, having a conversation with them and say, hey, this is what I need to have this conversation with you about. This is what our organization is about, right? And we work together, we're a team, and I'm going to continue to bring you in if you're on board with this, and if not, then we're going to move on to a different person. And they need to know that they're your guest, right? You're having them over for, hosting the party, and your job is to build not just success in 1 week and then it crumbles, but build a lasting foundation. And that's kind of long-term big picture. And sometimes outside open house people don't think that way. And that's one of the reasons why we created our internal open house program and grown, because we're long-term, right? When we have cancels and returns, it comes out of our paycheck too. For them, Friday, they say, hey, need that paycheck, right? Well, we'll give you 5 days. If anything's entered, cancels or returns, then, we can get that squared away. But as we all know, sometimes something gets dragged out past that 5 days, and they're like, I don't care. I got them to sign on the line, and
That's a win attitude right there. I mean, I think that means everybody's working together, and that's what it really tags, I think.
And having that conversation, saying, hey, look, we're in this together, or we're not in this, helping them to understand that it will make them, not only the consultants be more on board, but the open house people too.
Well, right when you get into an office, especially if you haven't been there before, it's very important to create a team type association with the PCC and the consultant, right? And if someone gets in front of a closer and that person gets enamored by the closer, they call that the sphere of influence, right? And if the team isn't all firing together, and you've enamored this person, and then the next week they come back and you're not there, what happens? And so you need to really build this team membership where you're building the whole store up, right? And I think that's what the difference is with having an internal team, is that we are all in it together, right? And we all want this success together. And if you're not building that, as soon as they come back in and this guy isn't there, or this girl isn't there that got them to commit to repurchase or purchase for the first time, and all of a sudden they're not the ones fitting the hearing aids, it blows up in everybody's faces. So you really have to build, and we'll be talking a lot about that more later, but I think that has a lot to do with just working as a team.
You guys here are the Michael Jordans of our family, and without Pippen, we can't score. And that consultant in the office is more valuable than you are. And you go with a humble, right attitude, the teamwork will happen.
I will say one thing from our perspective. We have found that there's kind of a bell curve of the right amount of appointments. If I'm doing every 20 minutes, I'm rushing so much that I'm missing out on those objections, because they had 3 objections and I didn't have time to answer those, that now I'm missing out on more appointments that I would rather, instead of doing a 3-day, I would much rather do a 5-day and spread it out. Even if you have satellite offices, there's many times where that's a 1-day store, but we can do a 5-day open house there, or it's a 2-day store.
We have someone doing the testing, and then they go into the other room for the closing. And I like a little more time too, but as my wife points out, we do 20 to 30,000 on a day, visiting one of our satellite offices, because the FOA is booked the whole day. It's hard to call that not successful. It's also equally frustrating to wonder, gosh, how much are we actually losing? And so then if we handle it right, we can bring them into the next week for their follow-up or for a revisit, and, have a little more time as Jones, and they're going to, get to the nitty-gritty.
So, well, and we're in the same way, and we'll talk about that here in a minute with scheduling. We're in the same boat as far as the amount of time, and we have, a test, and then we roll it over into essentially the closing office, that second office. But nonetheless, they're going to have objections. We're going to need to explain things. And if I'm doing that in a 30-minute time frame, I don't have time to handle your objection. I don't have time to do that. So it's like, see you later. And so even for us, a lot of times it's like, hey, a full day would be 8 appointments. Not 15, 30 appointments, it'd be 8 appointments. And we're doing 30, 40, 50,000 in sales. And we're spreading that out over that.
And I'm not trying to talk too much, but I will say this last thing, and I'll try to listen more, is that, when we do this process, the first thing we do is we put the hearing aids on them before we start any dialogue, and I don't know. But
Right after the test.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
From that moment go, they're like, looking at they're liking it.
Absolutely.
And that then we don't get hardly any objections or anything. We just go right into the paperwork, and we're going to see you in a few days to do a follow-up and get your opinion on what's going on. And it seems to be working for us in that way.
Yeah.
But it's just mostly me and my wife doing these visits as opposed to Heather or some of the others. If we want to have more engaged in it, I think we'll double our business when we do that.
One thing to keep in mind, and this is something because we teach as we're out in the field, not just do the event, we're teaching. This is an important thing that we teach the providers in the office is if you sit in front of a patient and tell them they need hearing aids, whether they're a current patient or a competitive user or a prospect, if you sit in front of a patient and tell them they need hearing aids, if they don't buy hearing aids from you, they're going to buy hearing aids. And so if you see 40 people in a day and you close 5 of them, that's 35 patients that are going to buy somewhere else. So if you burn through too many patients at once, you're going to be creating patients for another facility if you're not careful. So that's the potential drawback of over scheduling.
And if we have better dialogue for our FOAs, then we'd have more credibility to some of these appointments, and then more would be bona fide opportunities. And so we just try to diligently handle it as best possible.
The next segment, I'm going to be speaking about scheduling, and that's exactly the goal.
Great. Okay.
There's kind of a point of diminishing returns is the way I look at it. Where if you don't spend enough time, you're not building enough rapport, which leads to cancels. Because you can tell them until you're blue in the face, logically they need hearing aids and show them they do and they hear better.
Yeah,
but if they don't like you, they don't buy them. And so if you're spending 10, 15, 20 minutes with someone and you're, I don't know, what word do I want to use, cramming down their throat, and you're just like, yeah, here's the paperwork. You get into a point where it's diminishing. But we'll talk a lot more about that.
For us, our goal is always 100,000. And most of the time we're doing 5-day ones. As you'll see when we go over the numbers, there's many times that we're doing 150, 180,000, 200,000. That 150,000 a couple times a year can drastically change the results at the end of the year. Our goal is 10% or return. And we'll talk about this a little bit more because we do want some cancels returns. Obviously, it's great to have 0. That would be ideal. One thing that Greg taught me in his real estate background is if you have no turnover when you had apartments, he's like, you're not charging enough rent. And that was a learning moment for me is that if we're not getting some cancels and returns, then we're not pushing hard enough for some people and we're missing out on some people. And that's kind of where we want to push to the point where those people that were on the fence that they buy, but not so hard and not in a rude manner where they want to return. Getting a 30% return rate is not what we want to do. But we do want to have some cancels and returns. And then it's the focus of, okay, our goal is, let's say 5 to 10% and stay in that range. But if you have a 1% or 0% cancel return, then we're missing out on some sales. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Same thing as consultants. It's great to have 0% return, but you're going to be missing out on sales if we have no returns and no cancels. This is kind of the doing whatever it takes to succeed and fighting until the last breath. This is so critical to open houses for us because they don't always fill up, right? And from a business owner standpoint, you can put $10, $15, $20,000 into marketing to fill this event up, and then the marketing doesn't pull. What do you do? And we're going to be talking more about this, but it's making adjustments. It's being willing to get on the phone and make some outbound phone calls. And again, that's leading by example, right? if I, as the open house person, am willing to get on the phone and make outbound phone calls to your current patients or the people that came in last open house to try to bring them in, then as the consultant, I'm seeing, wow, this person really is showing me how to run a business, a successful business. And I'm coaching them on how to do this stuff. I'm following up with people that didn't purchase from yesterday and the day before. Hey, I just wanted to reach out to you. Typically, when we go over this, there's lots of questions. I wanted to see if you had any questions that I could answer. Anything that I can do to add extra service or help or value to you. And I'm making those phone call follow-ups. That's such a gap from consultants. They often get so busy doing deliveries and testing opportunities and cleaning checks that they forget to make that 48, 24-hour phone call follow-up of the person that didn't purchase. I can't tell you how many open houses I'll get 2, 3, 4 sales because of that alone. Oh, I totally spaced. Yeah, I want to do it. Okay, well, come on in, or let's get your information. Let's find a time that you can come back in. But those phone call follow-ups are so critical, but also it's how we lead by example in fighting until the last breath. I know many times our internal open house program, just because we're so competitive, we're on the way to the airport doing phone call follow-ups. More person because we're 2,000 behind, and it's like, all right, I'm walking into the airport. Let me get your credit card information. Okay, your expiration is awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Jones. Have a great rest of your day.
The stewardess is yelling at me to
And then a text message from Aaron comes in. Gotcha, bastard.
Just so y'all know, typically it's the other way around.
but that's the thing, that we are leading by example, because how cool is it as that consultant on Friday, and then you get a text message, hey, I was driving to the airport and I made a phone call follow-up and Mrs. Jones is purchasing. Just want to give you a heads up, will you order those real quick? She put down $500 on her credit card. She's going to pay in full when she picks them up. And the consultant's like, what a boost, and again, that's typically $700, $800 more in their pocket, and they didn't do anything. But the big thing that they get out of it is the importance of that phone call, of making sure that we're doing everything and doing whatever it takes to have that success. If you see that we are having issues, and again, this is going to be something that we talk about a little bit later, but if you see that there are issues, again, making the phone call, the confirmation call for the next day, that's not above me or below me. I'm going to make that confirmation call. If I see that PCC didn't do a great job, I'm going to do it. Right? I remember in Tacoma, we just recently had an open house, and it was 6 p.m. and everyone's done. They got their backpack and they're walking out the door, and I'm like, gosh, we got 3 appointments tomorrow that aren't confirmed. Let me give them one last phone call, because the likelihood of them being home at 6 p.m. is pretty high. So they put their backpack down and waited for me to make those confirmation follow-ups. And all 3 of them I confirmed, but it was, again, just, hey, I know it's after hours now, but those are the little things that now, hey, is Janet able to come with you, Bob? Okay, awesome. All right, well, we'll see you and Bob, or you and Janet, tomorrow at 5 p.m. All right, have a great rest of your night. But that little extra work shows that consultant, this is how I run the office. This is how I become a top producer. Those little things, being willing to show up early, stay late, but we're leading by example in doing that. What it takes in our internal open house program, this is where I want you guys to participate with me. But this was the big thing that Greg talks about for us is it's a full-time work ethic. All right, this is not like in open houses, you can make just as much money or more doing 2 open houses a month. So we think, oh, I'm going to get 2 weeks off. For us, how we raise our organization is we are essentially coaching and training, and we're building the rest of the team. So in our off weeks, we're usually making phone calls. How you doing? Calling the other consultants. And then we have some road warriors that don't have that, where we're doing 3 to 4 open houses every month, right? But this is a big thing is that full-time work commitment is critical for us, right? Because that's where you are looked at as management, right? Not, okay, I work 26 weeks a month or a year and I get the rest of the year off and I'm still making good money. We have to have that work ethic of, hey, I'm not doing an open house this week, but I got work that I can do to add to the company. And that's a critical thing. Obviously, your ethics and moral compass is huge. This is something that we are going to burn a lot of bridges if we're not doing things the right way. Our hunger, drive, and competitiveness, this is critical to succeed not only as a consultant, but in open houses. And this is one reason why it's, if you can have multiple open house people, or if you can find a way, let's say you are the open house person, to tap into other people to compete against, it just drives you, right? Just as a consultant, you guys compete against one another to win the competitions. You have to find a way in the open house program to find competition and drive and hunger and desire to succeed if it's not already there. But having people to fight against just gets you that extra push that on Thursday or Friday, if I have no one pushing me, knowing that I'm competing against, and we're at 100,000, it's like, all right, good. But if I'm at 100,000 and it's Friday morning and he's at 96, he has a full schedule, I have a full schedule, you better believe I'm looking at every single appointment being like, I got to get all these because Aaron's right on my heels. And that just, again, it's going to get you 1, 2, 3 more sales. Every open house, extrapolate that over a year. What's that going to do for your business? It's going to exponentially increase it for both of us. Right? Every store that we go into, it will change it drastically. Our technical and industry skills, sales, both personal and combined, if you are a consultant, we look at this stuff. So this is what we're looking at and making our judgment on when we are making decisions on our open house people. How are their ethics, their full-time work commitment, their hunger, their drive, competitiveness, their technical and industry skills? Are they going to be able to go into an office with a consultant who's been doing this for 30 years and have enough confidence and skills in their skills to say, hey, I got this. You know, hey, did you look at this? Look at their SRT. Did you see that? This is something that we need to take a look at their programming because this person could really benefit from frequency compression. This is the difference in technology from the ME4 to the ME2. This is how it will benefit this person, and have enough understanding of the industry and the technology to go in there confidently and succeed. There's sales, again, with current patients and new patients. Some people are great at closing current patients, not as good at closing new patients. And then some are great at closing new patients and not as good at upgrading. Typically 40% of our sales are from current patients. And so we have to get good at handling current patients and their objections. I just bought 2.5 years ago. Right? How are you going to get them to pull out another $6,000 or $7,000? The better you get at understanding the technology, the better you get at being able to upgrade them, the more success that you will have, not only as a consultant, but also as a open house person. The ability to think on your toes and handle objections, this is so critical just because you get so many objections and you get so many different variations of you're in with a husband and wife and then you find out that the husband also has a hearing loss who's been putting it off, but you got a appointment in the next room getting tested and you got someone that just walked in the lobby and is now filling out paperwork. What do you do? How can you maximize that? Or your power goes out. What do you do? There's been multiple appointments, that we've all had, or days, at least from our internal, that something like that has happened where computer died, the programming equipment died, the demos broke, the power went out. Right? What are you going to do and still have a good attitude and still have success, even though you had obstacles? And our mindset, what I love about our group is that we say, I still had 100,000 and I had to deal with this, this, and this. Suck it, and that's kind of our, we achieved the goal and we had to overcome 5 different barriers. And a lot of the other people don't even know that we had to overcome those barriers, right? And it doesn't matter, but it's only for us is like, yeah, I did that, right? I had no power half of the day. and we found a way to, take power from the next door. We went over and got an extension cord, and we had it running from the front door into our office, went and bought a generator. Doesn't matter. Like, how are you going to overcome the obstacles and think on your toes?
Did you guys know if you take a clear water bottle full of liquid and set it on your phone's LED light bulb, it's a lantern? $8,500 with a bottle of water. You find a way.
And these stories that we tell, we've been there, we've done that. We've had offices where, again, hey, run to the Walmart real quick and get an extension cable. Next door seems to have power. Or this one outlet has power, we'll just run everything off of that one. Let's turn everything else off and we'll just use that one computer and printer and we'll just do everything from there. You hook the modem into that, we'll hook the computer into that, restart it. We got about 30 minutes, okay, let's get rolling.
My Dodge Ram has an outlet, an inverter built in. Just take your stuff out to the truck and plug it in and go to town.
Well, I think part of the mentality that we've been kind of bred into is that, Greg's whole thing is there is no excuses. And the thing is you can come up with a million excuses why something didn't work, right? But 6 months down the road when we're looking at numbers, are we going to say, oh, I had so many no-shows no. I had a forest fire that made us evacuate that event. Mm-hmm. I had this, I had that. The number is the number. And it's 6 months down the road, no one's going to, you're not going to remember what even happened. You're going to be like, man, I really shit the bed, or, however you want to look at it. And the thing is, no excuses, right? But there are things that happen, right? And you just have to push through it.
Yeah.
Anybody can come up with a million excuses as to why not. Only you can come up with a reason why.
Yeah.
It's all about the attitude you're talking about, in my opinion, and all those positive things would create that environment that the specialists like you guys aren't robots, by the way. So when you do come in, you fall prey to all that negative energy or positive energy. In my view, if I had a guy say, well, you're just going to go home and die. The closer, But what made him be like that? Mm-hmm. Maybe if he was in a more energized, upbeat, progressive thinking environment, he wouldn't have behaved that way.
Well, as the closer, you have to be above that. You have to realize that you are the energy creator, right? So I've walked into environments and you can feel the negative energy in the air. And you can start off with 3 no-shows on Monday morning, and then you have your next 3 appointments that didn't bring in their third party, and then the next 2 that they're still financing their hearing aids, and you just want to put a gun to your head because you're like, what the hell's going on?
So do you monetize the FOA to have them be more willing to be involved?
As an owner, yeah, I want to make sure that I'm getting my people excited and pumped up.
Make sure they ask for that third party, and can't let them go out for lunch and all those things. My wife took a 10:30 appointment on a phone call on Sunday night that turned into a sale Monday morning. That's commitment. Most people wouldn't ignore that. Employees will all ignore that, but maybe they wouldn't if we could create more of this financial incentive to them.
Well, they should be incentivized based on commission, to do that. And if they see that leadership and management is doing it enough, then it just kind of starts to sink into this is how we are. And when you talk about it in that manner and you coach and you train and your open house people talk about it and coach and train in that same manner, then that's what develops the culture, right? When everyone is on board that we do whatever it takes to succeed, if you stay late, if you show up early, that's what we do, right? That is what we do. Then they become believers and this is what we do. Right? And so it just kind of drives them to want to do that. But if you see that your open house person is showing up and complaining, get a new open house person.
Yeah.
Or tell them, like, look, this is going to be the last time I invite you. Because you need to be above all of that. Right? And for the people that are looking at getting into open house people, you create the energy. You set the tempo. You set the pace. You set the standard of energy, how I show up. It doesn't matter what's happening in their life. It doesn't matter what is going on in the patients or in the environment. You're the one that sets the tempo. Right? So when I walk in, no matter what the PCC is going through, the consultant, the office, I don't care. I'm walking in with a positive attitude, and whatever they give me, I change their perspective, and I say, well, it's a blessing that you're able to show up today. And we're just going to focus on changing these people's lives today. and I'm just going to infiltrate them with as much positivity or a change of perspective, because that's all it really is. Like when you complain, you're complaining about your perspective of your situation, where if you compare to somebody that's in a worse position than you, right? This person in another country has, no power, no electricity, no running water. Like, you're pretty blessed, right? So I am infiltrating this positivity in them, or helping them to understand that there's a different way of looking at it, but I also do so in an empathetic manner. But at the same time, if my energy drops like this, that means that my excitement drops. And when I'm talking about hearing aids, I'm not able to control the energy of the room and the atmosphere nearly as much, because I'm like this.
Yeah.
And again, this is something that we'll dive into a little bit later, but that's one of the most critical things to success, is getting them on this journey of, I like this place, holy crap, I need to get some help. Hey, this is a great place to do it with. And that's the journey that we're trying to take them on. But just like the onion layers, we have to peel that onion back. Once they see that that little paper cut is really, I'm going to need stitches, then they're going to get some help. But it's our energy and our tone of voice and how we change the energy in the room where they will follow suit. So if you have an open house person that's not doing that, get them out. Get a new person in. And then have that conversation with you as, hey, because they're visiting you, they're contractors. So you have all of the power in your hands, and you're holding all the cards saying, look, I will continue, I'm looking for a great open house person that is going to do this, this, and this. If that's you, fantastic. If that's not going to be you, then I'm going to be finding another person, but I'm going to give you this one shot.
That's great. That's challenging them.
Yeah. And that's you setting the expectations. They've done open houses. They know what to do. But a lot of the open house people that I've seen, they are ones that say, oh, you couldn't even fill one day? You gotta be kidding me.
All the stuff. We still have that.
Get the hell out. We'll take care of this from here.
Yeah.
Guess what? You get zero pay. Because guess what? Contract's ended. You're the one in control.
When they're successful too, it's a wonderful thing for the whole organization, because everybody says, well, that office didn't used to do anything. Well, wow, what they do this week?
Right.
Then they start decelerating their own complaints and their own problems, because they say, wait a minute, I'm going to expose myself if I talk too much here, because I'm not willing to rise up to the occasion, as the results might show, before they readjust their attitude.
Absolutely. And that's kind of where everything ties into attitude and mindset, right? It's an obstacle, or it's a challenge, or it's a problem. You're choosing that. Just by simply changing it to, ooh, I got a challenge ahead of me, like, oh, I got another problem. It changes how you look at things, but how you show up and your mindset every day is critical to your success. And that's, again, what we're looking for in our open house people, is how is your attitude and mindset consistently on an ongoing basis? How do you handle that adversity? Coachability, are you coachable? Once you get good, we stop being coachable. Right? Once we get good, we were like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. I know. And we have to remain coachable. If we're not hitting the numbers, there's a reason we're not hitting the numbers. They average out, right? So again, you're going to have a bad event. You're going to have a bad, weather, something like that. But if you get enough open houses, the numbers reveal themselves. They average themselves out. And so when we look at that, we can't say, well, this open house had this problem, and this open house had this problem, and this open house had this problem. They average out. Right? Every single open house is going to have a certain amount of appointments where you couldn't get them financed. Every open house is going to have a certain amount of appointments that didn't bring their third party. Every open house is going to have a certain amount of problems and obstacles that you have to overcome. But at the end of 4 or 5 different open houses, they will average themselves out. So that's where I'm looking at the average and saying, how'd you do? All right, with the numbers, with your mindset, are you coachable? Or when I talk to you, are you just giving me excuse after excuse after excuse of why it didn't work?
One of the big parts about mindset and coachability is being able to do a self-assessment every day. We are not robots. I personally, you know what I'm thinking. It's on my sleeve. You guys have all worked with me. And I have my good days and my bad days. But knowing it and owning it goes a long ways. And so being coachable, being self-coachable, letting the consultant give you feedback and changing for them, those are big deals. So the better you are in tune with the pulse of the office you're in, the better results you're gonna get, not just that visit, but in future visits. You make an adjustment midweek to better that office. So coachability is a daily and an hourly thing.
I won't cancel the pen.
Just touch the big of. Yeah, cancel that.
Where's the cancel button?
With the pen.
Hit the pen.
Put the light under it.
It's the eraser to the right.
Eraser to the right, that's how we erase.
Yeah.
That'll only erase.
Hit the pen and then hit the pen again.
Should have taken lessons on how to do this thing.
I'll show you.
So hit the eraser? Is that what you were saying?
Then you guys, if you're trying to get rid of that, you have to hit the arrow button down. So after that, right there.
It's right there.
Slide it.
And then slide it.
No.
All right. Is that,
Hit the pen, hit the pen.
Hit the pen. I think it's gonna be this one. No.
No.
Everyone will take out their cell phones. We got this recording.
You were. Water break.
Shut down one.
And reset.
Control Alt Delete.
Okay, so while this is fired back up, here's what I want you guys to do.
Seconds behind.
On a scale of 1 to 10, your score is 100 at the bottom. I want you to grade yourself on a score of 1 to 10 on each of those. Self-assessment time. First pen.
You guys,
On the what it takes chair, these.
Yep.
if you're looking for a pen, each one of you have a goodie bag in front of you. And there's a really nice pen.
There's a pen attached to it, and then by the end of this week, you'll be able to use the other pen. That's a closer's pen. You can't use it yet. Sorry, man. Just kidding.
Crosses are for closers.
And we're back.
From 1 to 10. So
This over here, this over here.
this is right.
So this is how we get the pen.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, are you a full-time commitment person? I'm an 8. On how am I on closing new patients? I'm a 4. Give yourself a grade on each one, and
It's
then
a
add it
little
up and
high.
give yourself a score.
Huh? It's a little high.
For me, you're right. I suck.
And then you're gonna add another one.
I know.
After you're done doing that, we can take a 5-minute break.
Where's bathroom, Jay?
We got the bathroom just right around this wall. So if you're going up this way, take a quick left. And if those are full, all the way down the other wall. Oh, I guess I should say the caveat is if it's current patients, that'd be if you think it's I guess you're averaging, that'd be fine too.
See if you guys can beat my score. My score is 32. Who says self-hate isn't bad?